It's 0400 hours somewhere in South Vietnam. I try my best not to look down between my feet at the jungle canopy rushing by below, remembering that the only thing keeping me safely inside this helicopter is centrifugal force and a very tight grip on a handhold jutting out of the floor. Beside me is the door gunner, safely strapped with a complex harness, same as his M60, which is held in place by a series of bungee straps. The rest of us grunts are holding on for dear life, and I don't want to think about the consequences of a tumble out of a wide-open side of a Huey. Air assault is a pretty new thing at this point. The US saw great potential in utilizing the helicopter and immediately developed a whole brand new doctrine of warfare utilizing airlifted troops moving on fast, agile helicopters. Viet Cong and North Vietnamese forces have frequently found themselves making contact with US ground troops only to be outflanked by air assault infantry. Sometimes we have straps that hook up to our harnesses. We call those monkey tails. But when you get a call this hot, there's never time to strap in. You just grab your gear and run, fitting as many soldiers on a chopper as possible, and knowing that every second you waste getting to the target is more American lives lost on the ground. This call is, as they increasingly are, from a fire base somewhere near the border. The base is being held by a reinforced platoon, and estimates of enemy size range in the hundreds. That's not too unbelievable either. US units are routinely facing forces 3 to 4 times their own size, but the incredible US firepower more than levels the playing field. Truth is, we're winning this war in every area but the two that count, politically and in the minds of everyone back home. North Vietnam is close to total collapse, and even the Viet Cong are increasingly growing desperate. But the South Vietnamese government is completely useless and ineffective, and folks back home are sick and tired of sending loved ones overseas only to get back body bags in return. I'm shaken out of my thoughts as we near the LZ. It's still pitch black, but you can clearly see the fire base under assault several miles ahead. Tracers from M60 and 50 cal gunners light up the wide killing field soldiers cut or burned down shortly after establishing the firebase. Mortars impact both the firebase and the enemy assault outside of it. Both sides are giving each other absolute hell. But I know one thing, I wouldn't want to be the dumb sumbitch getting thrown into the teeth of all this defensive firepower. A jet scream cuts through even the incredible noise of the man-made hurricane keeping my Huey in the air, and a moment later there's a dull whoomp sound and a bright flash of light as a football field-sized area of the jungle goes up in flames. Liquid fire lights up the early morning, and I can really see the scope of the assault for the first time. The firebase is completely surrounded, but it looks like the main force of the attack is coming from the western sector, where US troops hadn't yet had a chance to finish clear-cutting the defensive fields of fire. The jungle grows closest to the base there, and the enemy's using the cover to their advantage. Or at least they were, until several hundred gallons of napalm fell on their heads courtesy of the US Air Force. We won't be pulling any flanking maneuvers tonight. Landing outside the wire would be suicide. And with each Huey loaded with up to 15 troops, there's not nearly enough of us in the 3 aircraft to do anything but serve as a temporary distraction. The Hueys are aiming to land inside the wire and drop us off, before flying back and ferrying a fresh load of reinforcements. They're only supposed to carry 12 infantry along with the flight crew, but we're only loaded with rifles and ammo, and in an emergency, well, regs can have a certain amount of flexibility. The door gunners on all 3 Hueys open up almost as if on cue. We're close enough now to officially be part of the fight, and tracers are already reaching up to the sky around us. The big M60 machine guns spit out steady streams of death, but the jungle cover's thick and impossible to identify targets. Instead, the gunners concentrate their fire on the origin of the ground fire from below. Quite a few machine guns reaching up at us go quiet. Many don't, and the air is quickly becoming a very dangerous place to be. To make themselves more difficult to target, the Hueys drop to the deck, skimming the treetops. I swear I can hear the sound of leaves brushing the bottom of my chopper. Here, the pilot has no technical assistance. He's flying on pure instinct, and balls so big it's a wonder the chopper has the lift capacity to carry them. Instinctively, I tug my legs up. The tops of the trees are uncomfortably close. A few RPGs scream up at us from below, but we're so low to the ground and moving so fast, they're completely useless. The pilots are slowing though as they prepare to land inside the firebase itself. If they continue at a high rate of speed, they'll completely overshoot or have to perform a slowing maneuver, loitering above the base and making each chopper a magnet for fire. Better to slow down now and get on the ground as quick as possible. My vantage point on the left side of the Huey lets me see ahead into the left of the chopper. We're close to the base, and by my estimation, we've slowed to below 100 miles an hour. As I peer ahead, I catch a glimpse of an oddly growing tree limb rising above the canopy a few meters to the left of the chopper, making a sharp right turn in our direction. With his concentration on the terrain directly ahead, I know the pilot doesn't see it. My brain does the calculations in a fraction of a second, and in an instant I know the truth. We're gonna hit that limb. I get a mental picture of the helicopter itself and figure it's gonna strike the landing skid right below me. I'm expecting a harsh jolt, perhaps. I couldn't be more wrong. We can clearly see the details of the firebase's defenses now, and the chopper's slowing down significantly, shedding speed every second. That's probably what saved my life. The unseen branch strikes with the landing skid, managing to strike the structural element that connects the skids with the belly of the helicopter. The entire machine suddenly and very violently lurches to the left from the impact, and the engine whines in protest as the pilot immediately applies power to try to correct the flight path. The impact sends a terrible vibration through the aircraft, and my grip on the makeshift handhold weakens severely. I hang on for dear life, but as the chopper spins uncontrollably to the right, I can't keep my grip, and the next thing I know, I'm no longer inside the helicopter. Interestingly enough, as I feel myself falling, I don't think about dying, but rather I remember one of the very first orders given to me after air assault training. An air assault infantryman is under no circumstances allowed to exit the helicopter except upon successful insertion. It was supposed to be a joke, and as I plummet to my death in the darkness below, I find myself snickering. I crash through the upper branches of a tall jungle tree at, I don't know, but I guess if I had to guess, it'd be several dozen miles an hour. The branches viciously whip at my body and face, tearing through the cloth of my uniform with ease. In theory, if I can hit enough branches on the way down, I should slow down enough to survive the fall. In theory, it's a good theory. I must have slowed down though, and to this day I'm grateful I hit a particularly tall tree. When I make my first impact with one of the thicker lower branches, the fact that I don't immediately die tells me that I've indeed slowed down significantly. I strike the side of a thicker branch and the air gets knocked out of me. It spins me around and now I'm falling face down. I clutch my M16 in my chest and shut my eyes. I smash into another thicker branch, striking the M16 dead center and driving the rifle into my chest. The impact is enough to crack the tough upper receiver and likely several of my ribs, but it slows me down even more. Now I'm tumbling and my feet strike a limb next. Despite moving at a very high rate of speed, it feels like my mind is moving even faster, slowing down reality and allowing me to process the horror of my tumble. I know instantly that both ankles have been shattered. That strike tumbles me once more and I spin backwards, striking yet another limb with my back, and then a second, third, and finally the ground. It takes me a moment to realize that I'm alive. And as the pain comes flooding in, I wonder just how long I'll stay that way. My rifle's gone, ripped out of my arms and tossed somewhere unknown. My harness carrying my ammo pouches has been ripped from my body along with a large portion of my uniform. Incredibly, a small first aid case I've attached directly to my belt was still in place. I could immediately tell most of my ribs were broke, and I remember a medic once telling me that that's what they were there for. Better a broken rib than a ruptured organ. My ankles were shattered, and I had a nasty protruding fracture on my lower right leg, the white bone of my shin sticking out of my body at a peculiar angle. A massive concussion, along with the gruesome sight of my broken body, nearly made me pass out, but incredibly I was alive. How long I'd stay that way was another question. The firefight was still raging all around me. The world hadn't bothered to pause in its madness despite my falling out of a racing helicopter and miraculously surviving. I tried to treat my wounds using my first aid kit, but quickly found out that my right arm was hopelessly broken in at least 2 places. I managed to wrap a bandage around my open fracture using my left arm, pure willpower pushing me through the incredible pain. Despite the raging firefight, I gave no thought for my safety. As far as I was concerned, I just survived a fall out of a helicopter. God clearly had plans for me other than dying in this patch of jungle hell. To be more honest though, I just didn't care. The pain was so incredible, I was past a sense of self-preservation. Whatever came next, I just let it come. Not like there was much I could do about it. I don't know how long I laid there before I started to hear shouting voices near my location. I drew my combat knife, still strapped to my hip, with my only good arm and figured if I went out at least I'd show that there was some fight left in me. As the voices neared, though, I realized they weren't speaking Vietnamese, they were speaking English. It was difficult to make out what they were saying. My concussion was turning the world into a blur of colors and sounds, but I began to yell back, a hoarse whisper at first that sent waves of pain through my body as I forced my shattered ribs to expand, but gradually growing stronger as I fought to suck in more air and make myself heard. I couldn't even hear myself thanks to the dizzying blizzard of noise and images in my head, but the soldiers somewhere out there in that darkness must have. I heard the trample of footsteps and a whispered, "Oh my God, I think he's alive," followed by a call for a medic. Strong hands began to lift me up and I was surprised to find that I wasn't feeling much pain from all my broken bones moving at once. I could hear more men through the darkening of my vision as I began to pass out and the sounds of very close gunfire. Turns out my rescuers had been the same soldiers we had been flying in to rescue ourselves. After getting tossed clear of my Huey, the pilot tried to correct from the sudden impact, but dipped too low. Getting thrown out of the aircraft saved my life, as the Huey's skids dipped into the trees below and almost instantly flipped the chopper over. Whoever wasn't killed instantly by the massive inertial forces acting on their bodies died on or shortly after impact. Incredibly, despite being under siege, the soldiers behind the wire quickly sent out a rescue party, knowing that if any survivors were out there, they'd be at the enemy's mercy. Luckily for everyone involved, the Vietnamese had already started their withdrawal, knowing that once the sun came up, they'd be prey to American air power. To this day, I'm grateful to the 8 men who risked their lives against a tidal wave of enemy soldiers just to search for survivors in a hopeless situation. Without their timely intervention, I'd have died of my wounds or at the hands of a retreating Vietnamese soldier. My injuries were severe enough that I'd be sent home permanently. My body healed eventually, though the guilt over my being allowed to come back home, while the same men who saved my life fought and died in my place, would never truly leave me. Now go watch How I Survived an Actual Military War Zone, or click this other video instead.